multimodal RAG, multimodal RAG, multimodal RAG, advanced RAG, RAG, and more RAG. Hello, everyone. Today, we are diving into an exciting solution that is transforming how organizations handle their unstructured data using Amazon Bedrock. Okay. If your organization is struggling with processing these various types of documents, images, audios, and video files, I think this tutorial is right for you. Okay, so in this video, we are going to have a lot of content. Of course, I'm going to talk about the introduction, the problem, the solution, the applications of multimodal stuff, the architecture of the multimodal RAG-based application, the demonstration of how you can get started, and some resources, of course. So take a look at the chapters within this video so that way it's easy for the viewers to navigate between this content. That being said, let's get right into the preview of the application itself. So in here we have the BDA control plane. BDA is the Bedrock Data Automation. So you'll see that you have some ability, some control over these type of operations, and then also about the process of file uploading and downloading, and doing more stuff with it, like analysis, Q&A, all of these different things that you will be able to see from this application itself. Okay, and then let's talk more about the problem. Like, why are we talking about multimodal here today? So for many reasons, and especially organizations. Okay, organizations, they face many challenges when it comes to dealing with massive amount of unstructured data. Okay, this is not in any shape or form. This is not like a database table. This is a lot of different types of formats. Okay, and before generative AI, processing these diverse formats, like we mentioned, documents, images, videos, all these, they required complex pipelines and extensive manual effort. But with the introduction of Gen AI and a lot of tools that are built for this capabilities, it's about to change. Okay, and the solution we are talking about is Bedrock Data Automation. Okay, and the two main things, and my personal favorite, is Amazon Bedrock. Okay, Amazon Bedrock, if you don't know, it is a managed service from AWS, which essentially simplifies your process of building Gen AI applications. Okay, and the two features, capabilities that we are focusing on today is Amazon Bedrock Knowledge Bases and the Amazon Bedrock Data Automation. I know that's a lot of words, but let's call Bedrock Knowledge Bases and the Knowledge Bases, let's call BDA short of the Bedrock Data Automation. Okay, but both of these features, they give you a powerful solution that lets you build multimodal RAG-based applications with minimal effort. And the knowledge basis for Bedrock is this complete support of end-to-end RAG workflow that's given by AWS. So that means you will get your entire ingestion workflow of converting your documents into embeddings, into vectors, and then you are storing them embeddings into your chosen specified vector database. Okay, so this could be OpenSearch or Pinecone, Redis, doesn't matter, GraphRag. And then if we focus on the Bedrock Data Automation, now this is the Gen AI capability that gives or streamlines the development of Gen AI applications, as well as automating the workflow of involving documents, images, audio, video, all of that. Okay, and it's this, both of these capabilities, this knowledge bases and BDA, they're tied together. That is what makes it easy for the developers to generate meaningful information from your unstructured multimodal content. So at the end of the day, you will get relevant responses for your RAG. Okay, RAG. You will get a very good, very accurate, less hallucinated responses for your application. And what type of real world application is this useful for? Okay, so if we take a look at some of the real world applications, the first one we have is the healthcare. Now healthcare, you would imagine medical staff diagnosing images, patient records, consultation recordings. And now these recordings, now these medical examiners, they can ask questions. Okay, you can ask questions like, hey, what is the patient's last blood pressure reading? Instead of going through different application software and even reading, right? It does the job for you. Okay, I'm not saying that RAG and multimodal is the only answer. Again, there is a lot more integration you will have to do, but this is what makes the multimodal easier. Okay, multimodal is very important and it makes this portion easier. But now if we take a look at the other applications like financial institutions and legal, right? In finance, you will be processing, loan applications and financial statements. So now you're allowing analysts to ask questions like, hey, show me all loan applications with high credit score. Okay. Now this is very important. So if you ask those questions, makes the process a lot easier. For legal, you would be asking about like, hey, what are the different evidences? Okay. What was it presented for my specific case, my specific incident? Very, very important. Again, the use cases go beyond these three mentioned in this video: media companies, real estate, many applications. Okay. Now, in next, what I want to do is I want to give you an architecture of this solution itself. Okay. And there are three main components in this architecture. Okay. Three main components. The first one, which we talked about, is the BDA. Okay. That's the BDA itself, the Bedrock Data Automation. Okay. Now, again, this is for processing that we're using. And then we have the knowledge bases that you see in here. Again, this is for the RAG capabilities that we are using. And of course, we have the big one, right? The foundation models itself outside of the basic components, right? That is doing all the Q&A and lots of processing for us, information extraction, all of that for us. So as far as the user flow goes, okay, it's very straightforward, right? You have the user in here of these application. You're interacting through a front-end application, okay? And in this front-end application, the authentication goes through Cognito, okay? Again, that is where we are going to create authentication, authorization. And these API requests, they are being handled by the API gateway and the AWS Lambda functions. Depending on the content, right? Almost all of the files, they will be stored in the input files S3 bucket. Okay, again, that is where everything is stored. Once this is stored, we are also storing this into a job table and starting a file processing workflow by the event bridge and the BDA. And the event bridge, again, this is where, again, it's tightly coupled together. So that means any status of the file in here, we will be able to see it from the job table in itself. And again, when the user wants to know what is happening of this specific document, image, video, we will be able to query it directly from the job table using this Lambda function. Okay. As far as the file processing goes, right, we are starting a Bedrock data automation workflow using the job status of the event bridge. The results will be stored in the BDA results S3 bucket table, and we have the Lambda function that takes care of everything for us. And again, it needs to know where the location is. So as far as the data source, it's pulling all the information from there, and it's using the processed the results, right? The processed results as our knowledge base in here. Okay. We also have the component of Q&A Lambda. So when the user is asking the question, it is this function that is able to take care of all the question answers, ask the knowledge base and the foundation model to give you the responses using the information that's in the database or the RAG capability. Okay. Now let's do the prerequisites of this application. Okay. Of course, you need an AWS account as we're deploying this. We need to make sure you install AWS CLI, Python 3.11 or higher, specifically Docker, but you might be able to get around with using Finch and some alternatives, but Docker is the preference in here. And of course, the AWS CDK, that's the cloud development kit. We're using CDK to deploy our backend infrastructure like the Lambda functions and all of the base infrastructure for AWS. Okay, so let's verify all of our installation in here. So again, open the Visual Studio or any other IDE of your choice. And what we are going to do is run the following commands to make sure that you are properly ready to go. So AWS version for AWS, Docker PS to make sure Docker is there, Python to make sure the latest Python version is there, more than 3.11. And for CDK, let's run CDK version to make sure the CDK is already installed as well for us. And last but not least, make sure that your AWS profile is already there as well. I would really encourage you to use AWS profiles instead of setting access key and secret keys in the CLI by default. It just makes it easy for the process and your more deployments, as you will see. So once this is up and ready to go, okay, so now let's deploy our backend. And for the backend, we need to clone the repository that you will find in the description, set up the AWS profile within the backend infrastructure, make sure we are in the backend folder, run these below commands, CDK commands to deploy our infrastructure on AWS. So open the VS Code again, or any other IDE of your choice, clone repository from here, or to the CLI method. And once you're ready to go, let's make sure. So now let's clone the repository from the GitHub, paste the repository in, select the repository location, and it will start cloning the repository for you. Open it in the window. Once it is ready to go, it will open up this folder for us. Now what I want to do is make sure that I only stay in that, and I will open up the samples, open the multimodal RAG application that I want to focus on, and make sure we have these structure in here. So now find the CDK JSON file, go in line number 3 and add profile and your AWS profile, name of the profile, which is TechX Umang in my case. If it's a different profile, add that in here. If it's default, leave it blank. Okay. Once this is ready to go, let's open up back our terminal one more time. And again, it is important that we are in the backend folder. So let's make sure that we navigate to the backend folder. Once we are in the backend folder, now we want to do is create our environment. Once we are creating our environment, we activate the environment. And after that, we need to make sure we install all the requirements necessary for this project. Once you see this, let's clear our screen really quick and let's run CDK Bootstrap to actually start the process of deployment. Okay, CDK, again, that's the cloud development kit, and bootstrapping nothing, but it just starts the process of, making sure you're ready to go. Now we run CDK deploy. Once you're done with CDK deploy, again, it is going to, start building the images for you in the background. It's going to ask you to, confirm of deployment of these changes. Again, this is where it's taking Python code and converting them into the YAML, JSON, and then it's using CloudFormation to deploy these into AWS for you. As you see, IAM role, everything for us. Okay. Once we are done with this, you will get an output that is similar to this. This means that we are good to go for the next screen. Okay. And so now let's configure our frontend. We want to make sure we are in the frontend folder. Okay. And one thing I've done is I've taken the example.env file and I made a copy of it and called it .env file. Okay. As you see, I'm in the front end folder. Okay. So let's do the front end configuration now. So as part of this configuration, we are going to open the generate dev.envsh file, and then in line number 16, STS get caller identity. Let's make sure we add the name of the profile and -- profile, the name of the profile. And after that, we also going to line number 30 and add the same exact thing in here. Okay. Once this is good to go, now we can go back in our terminal and now we can run the script where we had made these changes. And once we are run this bash script, okay, what it's going to do is take the output from the previous deployment and it is going to replace that in our env file in here. So if I open the env file, as you see, all of these details are being populated. So that's very, very important. So now again, in the front end folder, now we are going to run the command to install the libraries, the React folders, all of this node modules, basically npm install, npm run dev to run it locally. It gives us the URL of localhost. We take that URL, pop it in the browser, and we see the screen. Okay. Now, once we have this, let's make sure we navigate to the AWS Management Console. And within the AWS Management Console, now we can actually go ahead and visit the Amazon Bedrock page. Within Amazon Bedrock, we want to go down to model access and make sure we have access to any of the chosen models that you want to use for this application, like Nova Pro in my case, or a Claude 3.7 Sonnet, Claude 3.5 V2. Just enable the access of these 2 or 3 models that you want to use, and then go to the Cognito page, go to the user page, and go to the users, create a user. Again, we'll use this user to log into our local application. Okay, give it a username you like, mark email address, phone number as verified, give it a password, make sure it's strong. Once that's done, create the user, and now we have the user. On the portal, we log in with those information, of course, signing in. Once we are signed in, it's going to force us to sort of change our passwords. Okay, once we have to change our password, put the password in again, enter the password again. It's going to say not match or must match. Once you match it, change the password. Account recovery, we don't need it. Let's skip that one. Once you're on the main screen, now we are ready to do the big part. So in here, what we now want to do is go to the big last screen here with BDA operations. Here we can create sample projects, the BDA projects, give it some names you like document modality, again, image modality, audio modality. Give it a name you like, because it will not take in the same name, right? You want to have different names for the projects. So playing with this a little bit, very easy compared to the AWS management console, if in my opinion. But once we are happy with all the creating the projects, we can also list all the projects here too, right? You can see it's ready to go. We have blueprints, list operations. Same thing we can see from the Bedrock projects BDA page. You can see all the projects there, including the project ID. We can also see the sample blueprints, the custom blueprints, which we have 0, right? This is something that you'll see more once you play with BDA. So now let's go into our dashboard. And within our dashboard, now what we want to do is actually start creating the files, okay? So in this section, right, you are already given some of the sample files, and I've clicked on the chosen file in section in here. Again, PDF, images, videos, doesn't matter, whatever you want there, as long as it meets the size and these file types, you're okay. And then within our Git cloned repository, you can go to the samples folder, and within the samples folder, what we want to do is find our repository multimodal rag. You go to the backend, go to the samples, and select these files. So we go with the PDF file. It will start uploading the process. Same exact thing we can do for the other files like demo call mp3 file. So we do that. It'll take the file. Remember the architecture, it is doing the same exact workflow for us. Okay, now we can also do the movie inline agent.mov file. Once it's ready to go, you can kind of see that we see the status as well. So on this screen, this is all coming from our architecture. We see important metadata information, the modality, the name of the files, and we can kind of search through all of these files, everything in here. Okay, once we are happy with all of the upload and everything, right, we can also, what we can do is refresh our screen to get the latest update. But now we can also see our knowledge base. Remember, we are using the Q&A capability, and we are using the knowledge base capability in here, right? So we can go to the Amazon Bedrock page, go to the builder tools, and inside the builder tools, go to the knowledge bases, right? And we can see that there is this chosen knowledge base for us, and there is a data source. In this case, we are choosing S3, right, which is only one data source. You can have many as you want, but inside that too, right, like we have all the syncing that's happening, all the chunking that's happening for all these different files. We can kind of see like, hey, what is happening. But once we come back, everything is ready to go. All the status is good to go. So now let's click on one of them, right? If I click on the video, right, on the left hand side of the screen, I can see the video itself. So I can sort of play the video if I'd like. It seems to be like an HR portal type of video. Along with that, I can see the standard output of the BDA, the Bedrock Data Automation. So like metadata, shorts, chapters, video. I also see the video summary, which is there for the standard output, right? And I can also choose to download the standard output if I want. There is no custom output, but there is also the Q&A, right? In this case, we're using the Claude 3 Sonnet model. CRIS just means cross-region inference in here for the US region. And again, this is the chatbot. Now I can sort of query this video, right? As if, hey, tell me like, hey, please summarize this video for me. I know we have the summary, but I can also ask it to summarize it in 10 words. That was a lot of words. So it will send a request using the Lambda function, gives me the answer, right? So I have all the answers there. I can also ask like, hey, what is the key learning from this video? It'll give me all the response. Same thing I can do with the MP3 file. All the metadata is available for me, all the audio segments, timestamps in milliseconds. I can do the same thing with Q&A with Nova Pro model, right? Ask it like, hey, tell me what you listen in this video. It'll tell me everything I need to know. What is the problem here? Same thing with the PDF. We see the preview. I think we have a wonderful application here. And we asked the Q&A for this PDF about what this letter is about. It gives us the information as well. Kind of see, right? Shareholder letter from the Amazon. So we can also ask further questions. Again, chatbot functionality, chatbot interface allows us that back and forth texting interface. So if I want more clarifications, I can send one more text, right? In this case, I'm asking something about how should I help a common person, right? It's going to send the request and find the information, send it back to it. Now, the biggest thing is the cleaning up, right? We want to make sure we clean up our resources. Make sure you're in the backend folder. Let's activate our environment. Once we activate our environment, let's run CDK destroy. CDK destroy will take this command and start destroying or tearing down our infrastructure within the AWS. Just say yes in the bottom there. Once we say yes, it'll start destroying all of our environment. You can kind of see that it's saying delete in progress. Once it's deleted, there are some resources like S3, CloudWatch, and Cognito that we need to delete. So we go to the S3 and we go into S3 bucket. We have two different folders, buckets. So we have to delete them, just follow the process of deleting them essentially. Once you're done with them, now we need to find the CloudWatch. CloudWatch is a logging service, right? So let's search for them. Let's go to the logs section. Basically select all the logs if you want. Actions, delete log groups, delete all the logs so we don't have any costs. And once we are done with those logs, we'll also want to delete the Cognito user pool. So click on delete. Same process with AWS services. Copy it so we can confirm it and delete it. And of course, some resources, right? Like we have the blog itself. So shout out to Lana Zhang, wonderful colleague of mine, Elaine Kroc and Dinesh as well for writing this beautiful blog for us. So you can go ahead and clone this repo, clone this code, and start building applications on top of this. Wonderful Bedrock documentation that is always nice, and then Bedrock Data Automation documentation as well for you to build these applications as well. But that's all I got. Thank you so much, all. See you on the next one. Bye.